What happens when the smartest man in the multiverse falls in love? Exactly. It's a complete disaster.
Listen, Morty, I hate to break it to you, but what people call love?
Everyone knows Rick as the smartest man of the universe, the guy who built interdimensional portals, turned himself into a pickle, and believes that emotions and especially love is for idiots. But in this episode, he got broken by exactly this: his love to Unity. Now, this is not some sappy romance analysis because this relationship is so toxic that it even makes your worst look innocent. We are talking about Rick falling in love with a literal hive mind that controls entire planets. And it ends with Rick alone in his garage, pointing this thing at his head. See, this isn't just Rick getting his heart broken like some teenager. This is the episode where we discover that the most narcissistic genius in existence has an emotional weak spot so massive, it literally drives him to the brink of ending his life. This episode shows that proved that even Rick can't, well, Rick his way out of feelings, how it breaks him, and what it can teach you for your own life. And trust me, by the end of the video, you'll never see Rick with the same eyes again, and think about your own relationships completely differently. So let's dive in. The episode starts rather innocent with Rick, Morty, and Summer going through a spaceship with some pretty concerned aliens asking them for help because some entity took over the planet. A second later, one of the infected guys comes and literally pukes in the mouth of a normal guy, and they turn into another infected guy. While Summer and Morty look scared, Unity, the hive mind woman, greets Rick, and he is embarrassed to introduce her to his grandchildren. And here's the first thing we need to take a look at. At first, it looks like Rick is ashamed for dating a hive mind.
I could do whatever you do and more, baby.
But if you look at it from the lens of Rick and the feelings he has for Unity, which we only find out later, it looks more like pain. Anyways, they then get escorted to the planet where Unity greets them. And you see that she is literally everyone. I mean, she's the mailman, the doctor, some grandma. Literally everyone. Like all old lovers, they catch up together, and you can see that Rick slowly opens up to her again, and he immediately wants to party. You can see that Unity is not really in with it, saying he has changed, but somehow Rick manages to sweet-talk her into her old self again.
Maybe I just missed being with a collective.
Oh, and they kiss. In the next scene, you can see her doing space cocaine and crashing a plane into some random city. And from that point, it only keeps getting weirder.
The homeless are now philosophers.
Philosophers? Nice. Oh my god.
There are stadiums chanting Rick's name, coordinated flash mobs, and synchronized orgies. But don't worry, we talk about that in just a second. At this point, even Morty and Summer get highly worried about Rick and what he is doing. The episode makes it genius because, on the surface, it's hilarious. The sheer excess, the absurdity of Rick dating a literal hive mind. It's peak Rick and Morty. But lurking beneath all the neon chaos is something darker. Unity loses herself when she's with Rick. The responsible, orderly hive mind that normally keeps civilizations running is completely gone. And this is where everything gets downhill, because the entire episode feels like someone gave a cocaine-addicted rock star control over an entire planet worth of people. And the first stop are the Orages. And I'm not talking about some tasteful fade-to-black situation here. We're talking full-scale planetary debauchery with Rick as the star attraction.
Concocted a me repellent?
Does that look like a bad idea?
Unity literally reshapes entire populations to cater to Rick's, let's call them creative recreational activities. But it doesn't stop there. Oh no, that would be too simple for Rick. Next thing you know, Unity's doing space cocaine. And when I say doing cocaine, I mean she's got an entire stadium of people snorting lines in perfect synchronization. It's like a drug-fueled flash mob, except the flash mob is an entire civilization. And Rick? Rick is living his best life. He's basically become a planetary celebrity overnight. Unity's got statues of him built, parades thrown in his honor, and probably his face on their currency by now. Every single person on the planet worships him because Unity does. Think about that for a second. Your girlfriend literally makes billions of people love you. That's either the ultimate ego boost or the most hollow victory imaginable. Knowing Rick, he probably sees it as both and doesn't care either way.
It's not a do-over, you just did it, over and over. What are you saying?
But here's where it gets psychologically twisted. Unity isn't just indulging Rick's chaos for fun. She's losing herself in it. Before Rick showed up, she was this controlled, organized collective consciousness with clear goals and structure. Now she's crashing spaceships into cities because it makes Rick laugh.
Whoa! Whoa! That's not what I meant!
It's okay. It's okay. I evacuated.
See, this is the thing about toxic relationships that Rick and Morty nails perfectly. It's not just that one person is bad for the other. They bring out the worst in each other. Rick enables Unity's destructive impulses, and Unity gives Rick unlimited power to act on his worst instincts. Unity starts neglecting her actual responsibilities. Parts of her collective consciousness are breaking away because she's too distracted with Rick to maintain control. She's literally falling apart at the seams, and Rick either doesn't notice or doesn't care. This is Rick's relationship pattern in a nutshell. He doesn't just date people, he consumes them. He finds someone powerful and interesting, gets them to abandon everything that made them stable, then acts surprised when it all falls apart. And the worst part? Unity's enjoying it. She's getting high off the chaos just as much as Rick is. They're like two addicts enabling each other's worst habits, except their drug of choice is planetary-scale destruction. Because while Rick and Unity are busy playing interdimensional party gods, actual people are suffering. The society Unity spent years building is crumbling. Parts of her consciousness are literally rebelling. And that's when Unity realizes something that Rick never will. Some things are more important than having a good time. And just like that, the party's over. Unity wakes up from her Rick-induced chaos bender and sees what she's become.
I wouldn't be doing it. I've never released hundreds of millions of people before. This is gonna suck.
Parts of her collective consciousness are literally breaking away, forming independent societies because she's been too busy doing interdimensional keg stands to actually, govern properly. It's like waking up after a 3-day bender and realizing you've been texting your ex, maxed out your credit cards, and somehow adopted 17 cats. Except instead of cats, it's the collapse of an entire civilization.
Think you're getting what you wanted, Summer? Something's happening to Unity.
So Unity does what any rational hive mind would do in this situation. She breaks up with Rick. But not just any breakup. We're talking about a breakup letter that goes down in fictional history as one of the most brutal yet mature relationship endings ever written.
I trust you now.
That's nice, but I don't trust you.
Fair enough.
She basically told Rick, "You're so toxic that you make me toxic, and I refuse to be that version of myself anymore." But wait, it gets worse for Rick. Unity doesn't just dump him. She explains exactly why he's terrible for her. She points out that being with him makes her abandon everything she stands for, neglect her responsibilities, and hurt the people she's supposed to protect. And I mean, getting rejected is one thing. Getting rejected by someone who gives you a detailed psychological analysis of why you're a destructive force in their life, that's just brutal. But also completely accurate. And Rick takes this about as well as you'd expect. Which is to say, not well at all. The guy who claims emotions are for idiots suddenly finds himself absolutely devastated by the loss of her. And to make matters even worse, she starts dating another hive mind guy.
Hey Rick, listen, I'm just gonna stop by Virginia, okay? I don't know what state you live in, but I'll camp out there and try to reach you. Hope you're okay.
The one Rick made fun of earlier in the episode. At this point, Rick goes through all the classic stages of grief, like anger, where he snaps out at the hive mind guy she is dating now and threatens him to come for him. Then denial, where Summer asks him what happened to Unity and he says that nothing big happened and that he moved on. Up until the depression point, which is one of the saddest parts in Rick and Morty we have seen so far. After he told Summer that it's not a big deal, he goes into the garage, drinks, and you can see the mask finally slipping off. This isn't Rick being dramatic or putting on a show. This is genuine emotional devastation. He's stumbling around his lab, the place that's usually his sanctuary of control and genius, but now it just feels empty. Rick starts working on something, his hands shaking slightly. Whether from the alcohol or the emotional pain, we can't tell. Maybe both. What he builds is a device, a simple, efficient machine that he points directly at his head. The implication is crystal clear without the show having to spell it out. Rick has reached a point where he sees ending everything as his only option. Think about that for a moment. This is Rick Sanchez, the man who's survived interdimensional wars, who's faced cosmic horrors, and who's literally went through everything and come back multiple times. But a breakup, that's what finally breaks him completely. He then goes ahead and tests it on some sad little creature, where it works perfectly. So he sits down, the device powers up. Rick closes his eyes and waits. For several agonizing seconds, we watch the smartest man in the multiverse contemplate ending his own existence because he can't handle the pain of losing someone who actually understood him. But just moments before it goes off, his head falls down and misses him. And then we just see him laying there for days with his head on the table. And even Jerry walks, and with that, the episode ends. What's devastating about this scene isn't just that Rick reached this breaking point. It's that this represents his version of acceptance. Instead of accepting that the relationship is over and learning to move forward, Rick accepts that he's fundamentally broken and unlovable. The garage scene forces us to confront something we've always known but never really processed. Underneath all the bravado, the genius, and the God complex, Rick is deeply, profoundly alone. And when Unity left, she took away the one thing that made that loneliness bearable. That's the real tragedy here. Unity didn't just break up with Rick, she held up a mirror and forced him to see exactly what he was. Someone so damaged by his own intelligence and cynicism that he destroys everything good in his life. And when faced with that truth, Rick's first instinct wasn't to change or grow. Now here's why this episode is so crucial to understanding Rick as a character. This isn't just a one-off breakdown. This is the foundation for literally everything that comes after. Think about it. Almost every major emotional moment Rick has in later seasons can be traced back to this garage scene. When he turns himself into a pickle to avoid family therapy, that's him running from the vulnerability he showed here. When he gets blackout drunk and builds that memory-erasing device after his wedding disaster, same emotional pattern. The Unity episode is basically Rick's equivalent of Batman's parents getting murdered in Crime Alley. Except instead of inspiring him to become a hero, it just confirms his worst fears about himself. That he's fundamentally unlovable and that caring about people only leads to pain. You can see this trauma echoing through episodes like the Vat of Acid episode.
Maybe he knew more about acid. Maybe it's like the most painless way to go. How could that have been painless? You saw that pause.
Where Rick completely loses it over Morty breaking his trust, or the Wedding Squanchers, where Rick literally sacrifices himself rather than let his family suffer because of his choices. Every time Rick pushes people away, every time he acts like nothing matters, you can trace it back to Unity walking away from him. The genius of Rick and Morty is that they never let Rick fully heal from this. Every season, we get glimpses of that same vulnerable, terrified person who almost ended it all in his garage because he couldn't handle being truly seen and then rejected. That's what makes Rick such a compelling character. Underneath all the science and cynicism, he's just a guy who fell in love and it nearly destroyed him. And every single relationship after Unity is just him trying to prove that he was right to never trust anyone again. So what does this episode actually teach us about love and relationships? Well, buckle up, because Rick and Unity's disaster serves as a masterclass in everything you shouldn't do. First lesson, love isn't supposed to make you worse. Unity had her life together before Rick showed up. She was organized, purposeful, taking care of billions of people. Then Rick waltzed back in and suddenly she's crashing spaceships for fun. That's not love. That's codependency with extra steps. Second lesson, intelligence doesn't protect you from emotional stupidity. Rick can build interdimensional portals but can't figure out how to have a healthy relationship. Being smart doesn't automatically make you emotionally mature. If anything, it can make you worse because you think you can logic your way out of feelings. Third lesson, you know you're toxic when even a hive mind can't handle you. Unity controls billions of minds simultaneously, but Rick was too much chaos for her to manage. When someone who literally specializes in managing complex systems tells you you're unmanageable, that's probably time for some serious self-reflection. But here's the most important lesson, and this is where Rick fails completely. Love requires you to be capable of growth. Unity recognized that being with Rick made her abandon her values, so she chose to leave. Rick's response was to build a device and point it at his head, rather than consider that maybe, just maybe, he could change. That's the real tragedy of this episode. Rick had someone who genuinely understood and cared about him, but instead of becoming someone worthy of that love, he chose to remain broken. And that choice echoes through every relationship he'll ever have afterward. The lesson isn't that love is hopeless, it's that love requires two people willing to grow, and Rick only knows how to take.